Look, she's moving.
She's waking up. How is this possible?
The drop fell. Not from an IV bag, not from a syringe. It was from a Maid's squeezed palm, and the moment it touched Madame Nana's lips, her fingers, those fingers that had been still for days, twitched. Dr. Musa froze like someone had pressed pause on his whole body. Raphael's eyes went wide, his mouth opened, but no sound came out. Dorcas shouted, sharp and panicked, "Stop! Are you mad? What are you putting in her mouth?" Rebecca's hands shook, not because she was guilty, because she was tired of watching Madame Nana die slowly, like a candle melting in silence. The oxygen mask covered Madame Nana's nose. The monitor beeped, like a stubborn clock that refused to stop counting down. Then Madame Nana's chest jerked. A strange, sudden shake ran through her shoulders. Her eyes opened halfway, just a crack, like she was waking up from a deep, ugly dream. And Dorcas screamed again, louder, "My God, Doctor!" Musa didn't move, he just stared. Like the hospital bed had turned into a miracle stage, and he had forgotten his lines. Raphael stepped closer to the bed, his voice breaking. "Mama!" Madame Nana's lips parted. A weak sound came out. Air. Not forced. Not borrowed. Dorcas grabbed Rebecca's wrist hard and yanked. "You witch! You want to kill her and take over this house!" Rebecca pulled back, eyes wet. "Madam, please!" Raphael turned to Dorcas with a look Dorcas had never seen from him before. It wasn't anger like shouting, it was worse, it was quiet. "Dorcas," he said slowly, "leave her." Dorcas blinked. "Raphael?" He pointed at the bed, at his mother's moving hand. "Did you not see that? Leave her." Dorcas looked at Dr. Musa like he would back her up, but Dr. Musa's mouth was still open and his face was full of one question. How? And that was when Madame Nana, still weak, suddenly raised her hand to her face and pulled the oxygen mask away a little. She coughed, once, twice. Then she whispered, raspy but clear, "I can breathe." Everyone in the room went dead silent. Even the machine seemed quieter. Rebecca stepped back slowly, like someone who had just thrown a stone and cracked a glass wall. Raphael's hands covered his mouth. Dorcas's nails dug into her own palm. Dr. Musa finally found his voice, but it came out like a broken whisper. This is not possible." Madame Nana looked at him, eyes tired and sharp, like she had been awake all along and just couldn't fight her way up. "Doctor, I was drowning. Inside my body." Raphael turned to Rebecca, still shaking. "Rebecca, what did you do?" Rebecca swallowed. Her throat felt dry like Harmattan season. "Sir, I believed Mama was suffering from a severe seizure." Dorcas laughed in a bitter, ugly way. "Listen to her. She thinks she's a doctor now, a maid, a village girl." Rebecca's cheeks burned, but she kept talking. "My grandmother raised me in Ijebu Ode," she said softly, and something about that name carried history. Old compounds, red soil, evenings with smoke from firewood, and a woman whose hands knew leaves the way other people knew books. She was a herbalist. When someone showed signs like this, struggling for breath, eyes rolling, body heavy like stone, she used this fresh plant. She squeezed it. Just small drops, not plenty. Because it's strong. Dr. Musa stepped closer, voice tight. "What plant is that?" Rebecca looked down at the crushed green mess in her hand. "We call it Iwe Ajay where I'm from, but I don't know the English name." Dorcas scoffed. "So you admit it. You don't even know what it is." Madame Nana suddenly spoke again, stronger now. "And yet it brought me back." Dorcas went quiet. Raphael's eyes filled with tears, the kind a grown man hates to show. He grabbed his mother's hand carefully. "Mama, you're here." Madame Nana squeezed his hand, weak but real. Dr. Musa exhaled hard, like he had been holding his breath for days. "We need to monitor her, take her vitals again, check oxygen saturation now." A nurse rushed in. Another nurse followed. The room became busy, but it wasn't the same kind of busy as before. Before, it was the busy of helplessness. Now it was the busy of hope. And Rebecca stood near the wall, suddenly feeling small again. like she had done the biggest thing in the world, and now she didn't know where to put her hands. Dorcas stared at her like Rebecca was a strange insect that had crawled out of nowhere. Raphael glanced at Dorcas, then at Rebecca. His voice was low. "Rebecca, where did you get it?" Rebecca hesitated. "Outside the hospital, sir, behind the small garden area. I saw a plant that looked like the one my grandmother used. I was not sure. But when doctor said there was no diagnosis, and Mama kept getting worse," she swallowed, "I couldn't watch it again." Dr. Musa looked offended but also embarrassed. "We did everything medically possible." Madame Nana, still breathing on her own, said something that hit the room like a slap wrapped in velvet. "Doctor, sometimes you can do everything you know and still not know enough." Dr. Musa's shoulders dropped. For a moment he looked human. Not like a man in a white coat, just a man. Raphael wiped his eyes fast. "Rebecca, thank you." Dorcas's mouth tightened. She wanted to say something wicked. You could almost see it rising. But Madame Nana turned her head toward Dorcas slowly, and even weak, her eyes had authority. Dorcas forced a smile. "Yes, Mama." Madame Nana's voice was calm. "Did you call her a witch?" Dorcas laughed nervously. "No, Mama, I was just scared." Madame Nana nodded like she understood fear very well. "Fear should not turn your mouth into poison." Dorcas went stiff. Raphael looked between them, uncomfortable. He loved his wife, but his mother's words were heavy. They filled space. The nurse announced, "Her oxygen level is improving." Dr. Musa blinked again, like he wanted to argue with the monitor but couldn't. Then Madame Nana slowly sat up a bit on the bed. Not fully, but enough to show everyone. She was not a body waiting for burial anymore. She was Madame Nana, alive. Later that night, when the hospital corridor had become quiet and the smell of disinfectant sat in the air like cold perfume, Raphael stood alone by a window. Outside, Lagos moved as usual. Cars honked, street sellers still shouted. Somewhere a generator roared. Life didn't pause just because one rich woman almost died. Dorcas walked up behind him, heels clicking softly. "You're really going to let that girl get into your head?" Raphael didn't turn. "Dorcas, my mother almost died." Dorcas sighed dramatically. "And she didn't, thank God. But now everyone will start calling that girl savior. She'll start thinking she's important." Raphael finally turned, his eyes red but steady. "She is important. She saved Mama when nobody could." Dorcas stared at him. "So what? Next you'll bring her to sit at our dining table?" Raphael didn't answer right away. And that silence made Dorcas's stomach twist, because Dorcas knew her husband. When he kept quiet like that, something had already decided itself inside him. Dorcas forced a laugh. "Raphael, you're joking, right?" Raphael spoke slowly. "If Rebecca hadn't acted, my mother would be dead. Do you understand that?" Dorcas looked away, irritated. "Fine, I understand, but don't start making her feel like family. You know how housegirls can be. Today they're humble, tomorrow they're pregnant." That was when Raphael's face changed. He stepped closer, voice cold. "Dorcas, don't you ever talk about her like that again?" Dorcas blinked hard, shocked. "Raphael?" He lowered his voice. "She is not your enemy. Stop creating enemies in your mind." Dorcas's lips trembled. For a second she looked like she might cry, but Dorcas didn't cry when she was wrong. Dorcas cried when she wanted control, so she took a deep breath and softened her voice. "Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just stressed." Raphael stared at her, unsure. Then his phone buzzed. A message from the nurse. "Madame Nana is asking for Rebecca." Raphael frowned. "She's asking for Rebecca?" Dorcas's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Of course she is." When they returned to Madame Nana's room, the old woman looked more alive than she had in days. Her skin still looked pale, her voice still sounded rough, but her eyes were awake. She looked at Raphael. "My son." Raphael rushed to her. "Mama, how are you feeling now?" Madame Nana inhaled deeply and exhaled slowly, like she was testing her own lungs. "Better, not perfect. But I can feel life again." Then her gaze shifted, straight to Rebecca, who stood at the corner like she wanted to disappear. Madame Nana raised a finger. "You. Come closer." Rebecca obeyed, steps small. Madame Nana held her hand. Her grip was weak but warm. "What is your full name?" Rebecca swallowed. "Rebecca Adeyemi, ma." Madame Nana nodded. "Adeyemi. I have heard that name before. Your father—" "Where is he?" Rebecca looked down. "I don't know, ma. My mother died when I was small. My grandmother raised me." Madame Nana's face softened. "So you are an orphan?" Dorcas's eyes flicked up sharply. She didn't like how this conversation was going. Madame Nana kept talking, voice gentle but firm. "You saved me. Not because you wanted money, not because you wanted praise. You saved me because you couldn't watch another person suffer." Rebecca's eyes filled. I just didn't want you to die, ma." Madame Nana turned to Raphael. "My son." "Yes, Mama?" Madame Nana's voice dropped like a stone into water. "When we leave this hospital, I do not want this girl to return to that small room behind the kitchen like a nobody." Dorcas stepped forward quickly. "Mama, she's just a maid." Madame Nana lifted her hand slightly, stopping Dorcas without shouting. "Dorcas, not now." Dorcas froze, embarrassed. Madame Nana faced Raphael again. "Adopt her as your younger sister." The room went silent. Raphael's eyes widened. "Mama." Rebecca looked like she might faint. "Ma, please." Madame Nana squeezed her hand. "No. Listen, in this world, some people are born into protection. Some people must fight for it." Her voice cracked a little. "I won't let her fight alone." Dorcas's face turned hot with anger she could barely hide. Raphael opened his mouth to speak. And that was when the door opened suddenly. A young nurse rushed in, breathing hard. "Dr. Musa," she called, "please come quickly. There's an issue with the lab results from Madame Nana's earlier tests. Something is not adding up." Dr. Musa turned sharply. "What do you mean not adding up?" The nurse swallowed. "It looks like someone may have interfered with the samples." Raphael's stomach dropped. Dorcas's eyes widened for a second, too fast, too sharp, then she quickly covered it with confusion. Madame Nana's weak hand tightened around Rebecca's. And Dr. Musa said slowly, like he was scared of his own words, "If someone interfered, then Madame Nana's sickness might not have been natural." Raphael's voice came out like a whisper. "What are you saying?" Dr. Musa looked at all of them, Raphael, Dorcas, Rebecca, Madame Nana. Then he said it. "I'm saying we need to consider the possibility that Madame Nana was poisoned." Rebecca's breath caught. Raphael stepped back like the floor had moved. Dorcas went still, and Madame Nana stared at her son with tired, shocked eyes as the hospital machine continued to beep like a warning. Raphael's voice shook as he asked the question nobody wanted to ask out loud. "If Mama was poisoned, then who in my life would want her dead?" The nurse's words hung in the air like smoke that refused to clear. "Someone may have interfered with the samples." Dr. Musa's face tightened. He looked like a man who had just realized the ground under him was not solid. He wasn't smiling anymore. He wasn't even blinking much. Raphael stood beside the hospital bed, frozen. His mother, Madame Nana, was still breathing on her own now, but her eyes looked tired, like she had been dragged back from a deep place. Dorcas's mouth opened slightly, then closed. Her hand moved to her chest, but it wasn't the soft touch of worry. It was the touch of someone calculating. Rebecca, still holding Madame Nana's hand, felt the old woman's fingers squeeze hers, weak but firm enough to say, "Don't leave me." Dr. Musa cleared his throat, then spoke in a careful voice. "Let's not jump to conclusions. Interference can mean many things. A labeling mistake, a contamination." The nurse shook her head fast. "Sir, it's not a mistake. The timestamps, the handwriting, it doesn't match the lab assistants." Dr. Musa's jaw tightened. He turned to Raphael. "Mr. Okorie, I think we need to treat this as a security matter." Raphael swallowed. His mouth tasted bitter. "Security? In a hospital?" Dr. Musa nodded. "In Lagos, anything is possible." Madame Nana's voice came out rough. "My son, don't fear truth, fear lies." Dorcas stepped forward quickly, forcing a shaky laugh. Please, this is too much. Poison? In a private hospital? Doctor, you people should stop frightening us. Mama, just woke up. Let's focus on recovery. Raphael turned to her. His eyes were red, but they were also sharp now. Dorcas, my mother almost died. We can't treat this like a small thing. Dorcas's eyes flashed. So what do you want? You want police to come and start questioning everyone? To embarrass us? You know blogs are waiting for stories. Raphael didn't respond immediately. He looked at his mother. Madame Nana nodded slightly, like she was giving him permission to do what he had to do. Raphael exhaled, slow and heavy. Dr. Musa, call whoever you need to call. Dorcas's face stiffened. Rebecca felt Madame Nana's grip tighten again. And deep in her stomach, Rebecca felt something cold, like an instinct. This house is not safe. They moved Madame Nana to a more secure room. It was still a hospital room, but it had one extra thing: a security officer at the door. Lagos night pressed against the window. The city lights blinked in the distance like eyes watching. Dr. Musa returned with a file in his hand, his shirt slightly wrinkled now. He looked tired. Not the tired of long work, the tired of realizing you might have missed something important. I spoke to the lab, Dr. Musa said. They found inconsistencies. A sample was swapped. Someone used an old sticker label. Someone tried to make it look like Madame Nana's blood work was normal when it wasn't. Raphael's heart pounded. Why would someone do that? Dr. Musa hesitated. There are only two reasons I can think of. One, someone didn't want us to find the real cause, or two, someone wanted us to treat her wrongly so she could deteriorate. He didn't say the last word, but everyone heard it. Die. Dorcas's voice came out fast. This is nonsense. Madame Nana turned her head slowly toward Dorcas. Dorcas, do you believe evil exists? Dorcas blinked. Mama, please. Madame Nana cut her off softly. Answer me. Dorcas forced a smile. Yes, it exists, but not in this family. Rebecca's throat tightened at that sentence. Something about it sounded too neat, too rehearsed. Raphael rubbed his face. Doctor, what do we do next? Dr. Musa lowered his voice. We report to the hospital management, and I advise you to involve law enforcement, quietly. Raphael nodded. I know someone. He pulled out his phone and walked outside the room to make a call. Dorcas stayed behind, pacing slightly. She glanced at Rebecca with disgust, like Rebecca's presence in the room offended her. Rebecca kept her eyes down. She had learned that in big houses, sometimes the safest thing for a poor girl was to look invisible. But Madame Nana's eyes were still on Rebecca, and that made Dorcas even more uncomfortable. Raphael stood by the corridor window and spoke into the phone quietly. Inspector Balogun, a deep voice responded. Raphael Okorie, this one sounds serious. You don't call me at night for greetings. Raphael swallowed. My mother was unconscious for days. Doctors couldn't diagnose. Tonight she suddenly woke up. And now the hospital says her samples may have been swapped. Doctor suspects possible poisoning. There was a pause on the line, then Inspector Balogun spoke, calm but firm. Which hospital? Raphael told him. Balogun said, I'm sending 2 officers now. I'll come first thing in the morning. Don't let anyone know police is involved yet. Do you understand? Raphael's stomach tightened. Yes. Balogun added, and Raphael, be careful. The person doing this is close. Poison doesn't fly through the air. Someone has to bring it. Raphael's hand shook slightly as he ended the call. When Raphael returned, Dorcas looked up quickly. Who were you calling? She asked too casually. Raphael hesitated, then lied. My lawyer. Dorcas nodded, but her eyes narrowed. At this hour? Raphael shrugged. This is my mother. Dorcas opened her mouth to talk again, but Dr. Musa interrupted. I want to take another set of tests, he said. And I want to monitor her closely. No food or drink from outside unless approved. Dorcas clapped her hands once, like she wanted to end the conversation. Fine, good, let's do that. Madame Nana's voice came again, low but clear. Rebecca. Rebecca stepped closer. Yes, ma. Madame Nana looked at her like she was studying her face, her bones, her spirit. Where did you learn to notice seizure signs? Rebecca swallowed. My grandmother. She taught me. She always said when someone is sick, your eyes must be sharp. You don't only look, you observe. Dorcas rolled her eyes. Observe, as if she's a nurse. Madame Nana ignored Dorcas and kept staring at Rebecca. You're not foolish. Rebecca shook her head quickly. No, Ma. Madame Nana nodded like she already knew. Then listen to me. From today, if anyone gives me anything, tea, water, medicine, you must watch. Rebecca's breath caught. Ma. Madame Nana's eyes turned hard. I am alive now because God used you, but if this sickness is not natural, it may return. Dorcas's voice rose. Mama, what is this? Are you accusing someone? Madame Nana turned to her slowly. Dorcas, I am warning everyone. Dorcas's face twisted. This is insulting. Madame Nana's voice dropped, calm but sharp like a knife laid gently on a table. Dorcas, in my life, I have seen kindness. I have seen wickedness. I have learned one thing. The loudest people often hide the most. Raphael stood between them, feeling like the air was too tight. Dorcas looked at Raphael as if begging him to defend her. But Raphael didn't speak, because part of him, just a small part, wondered why Dorcas looked more angry than scared. By morning, Madame Nana looked better. Not fully strong, but better. Her eyes had more light. Her breathing was steadier. Raphael sat beside her bed, exhausted. Dorcas sat across the room, scrolling on her phone, pretending she wasn't listening. Rebecca stood near the door holding a small bag of toiletries and clothes. Dr. Musa walked in with fresh test results. He looked more serious than before. Raphael stood immediately. Doctor. Dr. Musa sighed. There are traces in her blood that shouldn't be there. Very small, but present. Raphael's throat tightened. What kind of traces? Dr. Musa hesitated, then said, It resembles a toxin that can cause breathing difficulty, weakness, confusion, and can mimic natural illness. Dorcas's phone slipped slightly in her hand. Rebecca noticed. She pretended not to. Dr. Musa continued, It's not something you buy in a normal shop. It could be from certain chemicals, or certain plants. Dorcas stood quickly. Plants. You see? It could just be herbal interference. This, Rebecca girl put strange liquid in Mama's mouth. Rebecca's heart slammed in her chest. Raphael snapped, loud for the first time. Dorcas, stop. Dorcas flinched. Raphael pointed at his mother. Mama woke up because of her, not because of you. Dorcas's eyes filled with tears immediately, fast tears. So you're choosing her over me? Raphael looked like he didn't even recognize the conversation. Dorcas, this is not about choosing anyone. This is about saving my mother. Dorcas wiped her tears and spoke in a low voice. I'm just saying we should be careful. Maybe this maid is not who she claims to be. Rebecca's hands trembled. Madame Nana spoke, tired but strong. Dorcas, you mocked her when she was cleaning. You mocked her when she served you. Now you want to paint her as a villain because she did what you couldn't do. Act with courage. Dorcas's face turned red. Mama, this is unfair. Madame Nana exhaled. Life is unfair, but truth is simple. Raphael rubbed his forehead. Dr. Musa, what do we do? Dr. Musa lowered his voice again. If you want the truth, you need investigation. But quietly. Raphael nodded. It's already happening. Dorcas's eyes darted. What? Raphael smiled faintly. No warmth. Nothing. Dorcas stared at him, suspicious. 2 days later, they left the hospital. Lagos sunlight hit their faces. Outside the hospital gate, reporters were not there. Raphael had paid for silence. 2 black SUVs waited. The driver opened the door. Madame Nana entered slowly, supported by Raphael. Dorcas entered next, her expensive perfume too strong, like she wanted the world to know she was still in control. Rebecca entered last, quietly. As the car moved, Rebecca looked out of the window at Lagos streets. Danfo buses, hawkers, street corners. Normal life. But Rebecca's heart was not normal. Because she could feel it. Something had shifted. And in the mansion, shifts can become storms. The house staff lined up to welcome them. The marble floors gleamed. The air conditioning was cold enough to make you forget Nigeria had heat. Madam Nana looked around, then turned to Rebecca. "From today," Madam Nana said, loud enough for the staff to hear, "Rebecca is not a maid in this house anymore." The staff gasped softly. Dorcas's neck stiffened. Raphael's eyes widened. "Mama!" Madam Nana raised her hand. "My son, you heard me in the hospital. You will do it." Dorcas forced a laugh. "Mama, people will talk." Madam Nana's eyes turned to Dorcas. "Let them talk." Then she looked at Raphael again. "Adopt her as your younger sister." The words landed again, heavier this time because they were no longer inside a hospital. They were inside the mansion, inside Dorcas's kingdom. Rebecca froze. "Ma, please," she whispered, voice shaking. "I am grateful, but—" Madam Nana held her hand gently. "No, you will not beg to be treated like a human being." Raphael swallowed. His voice came out soft. "Mama, are you sure?" Madam Nana nodded once. "Yes." Raphael looked at Rebecca. He saw the fear in her eyes, the confusion. He saw a girl who had been laughed at so much she didn't know what respect looked like. Raphael nodded slowly. "Okay, if that's what you want, Mama, I will do it." Dorcas's smile froze. It was still on her face, but it looked painful now, like a mask pulled too tight. Rebecca's heart pounded. She looked at Dorcas. Dorcas stared back with eyes that said one clear thing. "You just declared war, and you don't even know it." Dorcas sat on her bed, phone in her hand. She wasn't calling friends. She wasn't scrolling. She was thinking. Slowly. Bitterly. She remembered the staff whispering when Madam Nana announced Rebecca's promotion. She remembered Raphael's eyes when he yelled at her in the hospital. She remembered Madam Nana's words. "Fear should not turn your mouth into poison." Dorcas's lips curled. "Poison," she whispered. Then she stood up and walked to her jewelry box. She opened it. Gold necklaces sparkled under the light. She touched them like they were her proof that she belonged. Then she paused. A plan began forming, the kind of plan that makes people doubt the innocent. She smiled. It was not a happy smile. "If she wants to be my sister," Dorcas murmured, "then she will learn what family can do." Rebecca woke up early as usual because old habits don't disappear just because someone calls you sister. She cleaned lightly. She arranged Madam Nana's breakfast tray. She checked Madam Nana's medication. Madam Nana watched her quietly, almost like a mother watching a child. Later, Raphael called from upstairs. "Rebecca, please bring my phone. I left it in the study." Rebecca rushed. The study was large, with a glass shelf, expensive books, and framed photos of Raphael as a boy with Madam Nana smiling beside him. Rebecca entered quickly, found the phone, and left. She didn't touch anything else. She didn't even breathe too loudly. She took the phone to Raphael. He thanked her. And life moved. Until around noon, when Dorcas's scream cut through the mansion like glass breaking. "My necklace!" Staff ran. Raphael came down fast. Madam Nana stepped out slowly, supported by a cane. Dorcas stood by her jewelry box, eyes wide, shaking like she had been attacked. "Someone stole my gold necklaces," Dorcas cried. Raphael frowned. "Stole? Are you sure?" Dorcas pointed dramatically. "Yes, it was here. I counted them yesterday." Her eyes then turned, slowly, toward Rebecca. Rebecca felt her stomach drop. Dorcas's voice rose. "Only one person entered our room today." Rebecca's mouth went dry. "Madam, I didn't." Dorcas stepped closer, face twisted with fake pain. "You came to carry Raphael's phone." "You think we are fools?" Raphael looked confused. "Rebecca, did you enter our room?" Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. "Sir, I went to the study, not your room. I didn't touch anything." Dorcas shouted, "Liar!" Madam Nana's voice cut through the noise, calm but dangerous. "Dorcas." Dorcas turned quickly. "Mama, please don't support thieves." Madam Nana's eyes narrowed. "Don't call her a thief without proof." Dorcas held her chest like she might faint. "Proof. The proof is that the jewelry is missing, and she is the only stranger in this house." Rebecca trembled, tears falling. "Ma, I swear." Dorcas shouted again, "Search her bag." Staff looked uncomfortable. Raphael's face tightened. Madame Nana stared at Dorcas like she was seeing her properly for the first time. Then Madame Nana spoke, slowly. "Dorcas, if we search her and we find nothing, what will you do?" Dorcas froze. Raphael's voice came out low. "Mama." Madame Nana didn't blink. "Search her," Rebecca gasped. Madame Nana raised her hand gently. "Don't fear, my child. Truth does not fear light." Dorcas smiled quickly, satisfied. A maid brought Rebecca's small bag. They opened it. They saw clothes, small slippers, simple things, no necklace. Dorcas's smile faltered. Madame Nana's eyes hardened. Again. They searched Rebecca's room. Nothing. Dorcas's face tightened. She forced a laugh. Then she must have hidden it somewhere else. Raphael's voice rose slightly. "Dorcas, stop. We found nothing." Dorcas looked at Raphael, eyes shining with anger. "So you're defending her?" Rebecca's chest hurt like someone sat on it. Madame Nana stepped closer to Dorcas. Her voice became quiet, and somehow that quiet voice was the scariest sound in the mansion. "Dorcas," Madame Nana said, "you are trying to stain an innocent girl because you hate that she saved me." Dorcas's mouth opened. Madame Nana continued, "This house is not your battlefield, and Rebecca is not your enemy." Dorcas's eyes flashed. "Then where is my necklace?" Madame Nana paused. Then she said the words that made everyone's skin prickle. "Maybe the thief is the one shouting loudest." Dorcas's face went blank. Raphael turned slowly toward his wife, and Rebecca realized something scary. Dorcas wasn't done. Not at all, because Dorcas didn't look like a woman who had lost her necklace. Dorcas looked like a woman whose first plan had failed, and was already planning the second. That night, as everyone slept, Rebecca woke up to a soft creak near her door. And when she looked up, she saw a shadowy figure holding Dorcas's missing necklace, walking toward her bag. Rebecca's eyes snapped open. At first, she thought it was a dream, the kind that sneaks up on you when fear has been living inside your chest for too long. The room was dark, quiet and cold from the air conditioner humming softly above. Her small bedside lamp was off. The curtains moved slightly as the night breeze pushed through a tiny gap in the window. Then she heard it again. A soft creak. Her door. Rebecca didn't move. She didn't scream. She didn't even breathe properly. She stared. A shadow slipped into the room, slow and careful. Whoever it was knew the house well. They stepped lightly, avoiding the loose floorboard near the door, the one that always made a sound when Rebecca walked in barefoot. Rebecca's heart began to pound so loudly she was sure the shadow could hear it. The figure moved closer to her small wooden table. Rebecca's eyes adjusted. And then she saw it. A glint. Gold. Her stomach dropped. It was the necklace. Dorcas's missing gold necklace was dangling from the shadow's fingers, catching the faint moonlight like it was proud of itself. Rebecca's body went cold. She wanted to jump up. She wanted to shout. She wanted to run, but fear glued her to the bed. The shadow bent down and opened Rebecca's small travel bag, the one she kept under the table. The zipper sound felt loud, violent, like tearing cloth in a silent room. "No," Rebecca whispered, barely louder than air. The figure froze. For 1 second, time stopped. Then the shadow straightened slowly and turned. Rebecca finally saw the face, and her heart broke a little. It was Dorcas, not in her silk nightwear, not in makeup. Just Dorcas, bare-faced, eyes sharp, lips tight, holding the necklace like a weapon. Rebecca sat up suddenly. "Madam, please." Dorcas smiled. It wasn't a smile of joy. It was thin, cold. "Don't scream," Dorcas said softly. "If you scream, people will ask questions, and I don't think you want that." Rebecca's hands shook. "Why are you doing this to me?" Dorcas tilted her head. "Because you don't know your place." Rebecca swallowed hard. "I didn't ask to be here. Mama insisted." Dorcas laughed quietly. "Mama insisted because she's old and sentimental. Raphael agreed because he feels guilty." She stepped closer, her shadow falling across Rebecca's face. "But this house, This life, it's mine. Rebecca shook her head. I just want peace. Dorcas raised the necklace slightly. Peace? She scoffed. You brought war the day you touched my mother-in-law and came back from the dead with her. Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. I saved her. Dorcas's smile vanished. You embarrassed me. She moved fast then, too fast for Rebecca to react. Dorcas shoved the necklace deep into Rebecca's bag and zipped it shut. There, Dorcas whispered. Problem solved. Rebecca jumped up from the bed. Madam, please don't do this. Dorcas leaned in close, her breath warm and sharp. Tomorrow morning I will scream again, this time louder, and when they search your bag… She shrugged. We will see who they believe. Rebecca's knees felt weak. Madam Nana trusts me. Dorcas straightened, her face hardening. Trust is easy to break. She turned to leave. At the door she paused. By the way, if you ever mention this to anyone, I will say you tried to poison Mama with that strange herb. Who do you think they'll believe then? The door closed softly behind her. Rebecca collapsed back onto the bed. Her chest hurt. Her hands trembled. Tears slid silently down her cheeks. She pressed her palm over her mouth so no sound would escape. For the first time since Madam Nana called her daughter, Rebecca felt truly alone. Morning light crept into the mansion like it didn't know it was entering a war zone. Rebecca barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the necklace dropping into her bag. She felt like it was burning through the fabric, touching her skin even though it wasn't. Rebecca sat up slowly. She stared at the bag. Her heart beats faster. She could run. She thought about it. Just pick the bag and leave. Disappear back into the world where nobody expected anything from her. But then she remembered Madam Nana's voice. Truth does not fear light. Rebecca stood up. She washed her face. She tied her hair neatly. She picked up the bag and placed it on the bed. She didn't open it. If she touched the necklace, Dorcas would say she handled it. If she removed it, Dorcas would say she tried to hide it. So Rebecca did the hardest thing. She left it exactly where Dorcas put it. And she walked downstairs. Dorcas was already in the living room, dressed beautifully like nothing had happened the night before. Her face was calm, her posture confident. Madam Nana sat on her favorite chair, a light shawl over her shoulders. Raphael stood near the window, speaking on the phone. Rebecca entered. Quietly, Dorcas's eyes flicked toward her for half a second. Then, my necklace, Dorcas screamed. The sound sliced through the room. Staff froze. Raphael turned sharply. What now? Dorcas rushed to her jewelry box, pretending to search frantically. It's gone. Again. I checked last night. Someone must have hidden it. Raphael's face tightened. Dorcas, calm down. Dorcas spun toward Rebecca. Search her bag. Rebecca felt her chest tighten. Madam Nana's eyes moved slowly from Dorcas to Rebecca. Rebecca, did you take anything? Rebecca swallowed. No, Ma. Dorcas clutched her chest dramatically. You see, she's lying again. Raphael rubbed his face, tired. Search the bag. Rebecca nodded. I'll bring it myself, she said quietly. She turned and walked upstairs. Every step felt heavy. She returned with the bag and placed it gently on the center table. The room went silent. Dorcas crossed her arms, already. Confident, a maid unzipped the bag, clothes, slippers, then gold, the necklace. It spilled out like it was proud to be seen. Gasps filled the room. Rebecca's breath caught in her throat. Dorcas screamed, I knew it, thief. Raphael stared at the necklace, his face unreadable. Rebecca shook her head violently. Sir, please, I didn't put it there. Dorcas laughed loudly. Oh, so it walked into your bag by itself. Madam Nana didn't speak. That scared everyone. She stared at the necklace for a long time. Then she looked at Rebecca. Rebecca met her eyes, tears flowing freely now. Ma, someone came to my room last night. Dorcas's face stiffened. Madam Nana leaned forward. Who? Rebecca's voice shook. Madam Dorcas. The room exploded. Dorcas shouted, Liar, wicked girl. You see how she turns things around. Raphael stepped forward. Rebecca, are you sure? Rebecca nodded. She came in the night. She warned me not to talk. She put it in my bag. Dorcas turned to Raphael, eyes wide with fake hurt. So now you believe this girl over your wife? Raphael looked stuck. He loved his wife, but something inside him cracked. "Dorcas," he said slowly, "why would she accuse you if she knew it would make things worse for her?" Dorcas snapped, "Because she wants my position." Madame Nana stood up suddenly. The room fell silent again. She walked slowly to the table and picked up the necklace. She held it up. "Dorcas," she said calmly, "where were you last night around midnight?" Dorcas hesitated, just for a second. "In my room, sleeping." Madame Nana nodded. "Then why did the security camera near the east hallway record movement at 12:07 a.m.? Dorcas's face drained of color. Raphael turned sharply. "Security camera?" Madame Nana's eyes stayed on Dorcas. "Yes, I asked the security team to review footage quietly this morning." Dorcas's mouth opened. No words came out. Madame Nana continued, voice steady. "A woman with your height, your walk, your scarf, entered Rebecca's corridor." Silence pressed down like weight. Dorcas shook her head weakly. "This is a setup." Madame Nana's voice hardened. "Enough." She turned to the guards. "Bring the footage." A tablet was brought. They watched. The video was not clear, but it was clear enough. A figure, a familiar walk, a familiar scarf. Rebecca's room door opening. Dorcas dropped onto the couch. Raphael felt like the floor moved beneath him. "Dorcas," he whispered. Dorcas began to cry then. It was an ugly, shaking sobs. "I was scared," she cried. "She was taking everything from me. Your mother, your attention, this house." Madame Nana closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were full of disappointment. "I did not raise my son to marry fear," she said quietly. Dorcas looked up desperately. "Mama, please." Madame Nana raised her hand. "Apologize." Dorcas turned to Rebecca slowly. Her mouth trembled. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I set you up." Rebecca nodded silently, tears falling. Raphael sank into a chair, his head in his hands. He felt betrayed, confused and ashamed. Madame Nana spoke again. "Dorcas, you will learn to live in peace with Rebecca. This house will not survive bitterness." Dorcas nodded weakly, but as Rebecca wiped her tears, she felt something deep inside her twist. Because Dorcas's apology didn't feel finished, it felt forced. And forced apologies grow teeth later. That night, Rebecca sat on her bed, exhausted. She thought it was over. But across the mansion, Dorcas lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Her apology replayed in her head. Her humiliation, her loss of control. Her lips curled into a slow smile. "Fine," she whispered into the dark. "If I can't remove her quietly, I'll destroy her slowly." She reached for her phone and dialed a number she hadn't used in years. "Hello," she said softly. "I need a favor." As Dorcas ended the call, Rebecca felt a strange chill run through her body, the same feeling she had the night Madame Nana almost died. And somewhere deep inside her, she knew. The necklace was only the beginning. Something worse was coming. Morning arrived quietly. Rebecca noticed it the moment she stepped into the kitchen. The mansion was awake, but it felt like everyone was holding their breath. Pots clanged softer than usual. Footsteps were careful. Conversations died when she entered a room. She had slept with the light on, not because of nightmares, because silence had begun to scare her. Rebecca rinsed her hands and tied her apron, even though Madame Nana had said she didn't need to work like a maid anymore. Old habits stuck. Working made her feel useful. Useful made her feel safe. Or at least, it used to. Behind her, someone cleared their throat. Rebecca turned. Dorcas stood there, smiling. It was the kind of smile that didn't touch the eyes. "Good morning, Rebecca," Dorcas said sweetly. Rebecca froze for half a second, then nodded. "Good morning, madam." Dorcas tilted her head. "No hard feelings, I hope." Rebecca searched Dorcas's face. She wanted to believe the apology from yesterday meant something. She wanted peace. She wanted quiet. "Yes, madam," Rebecca said softly. "No hard feelings." Dorcas smiled wider. "Good. Because we are family now." The word family landed wrong. Dorcas walked away, heels clicking lightly on the tiles. Rebecca stood there long after, staring at the spot where Dorcas had been. Something in her chest tightened. That smile wasn't forgiveness, it was a promise. Later that morning, Rebecca brought a cup of warm tea to Madame Nana's room. The old woman was sitting up now, stronger than before, wrapped in a soft wrapper, her hair neatly tied back. "Madam." Nana watched Rebecca closely as she placed the tray down. "You didn't sleep well," Madame Nana said. Rebecca hesitated. "I'm fine, Ma." Madame Nana raised an eyebrow. "You are lying." "But not badly." Rebecca smiled weakly and sat on the small stool beside the bed. Madame Nana took her tea slowly. "Dorcas spoke to you this morning." Rebecca nodded. Madame Nana's eyes hardened slightly. "What did she say?" Rebecca chose her words carefully. "She greeted me nicely." Madame Nana sighed. "Niceness without repentance is just another weapon." Rebecca's hands trembled. "Ma, do you think she will hurt me?" Madame Nana reached out and held Rebecca's hand. Her grip was firm now. "Dorcas is not wicked because she is evil. She is wicked because she is afraid." Rebecca swallowed. "Afraid of what?" Madame Nana looked out the window toward the gate, where cars moved in and out. "Afraid of losing control." Rebecca felt a chill. "Madam," Nana turned back to her. "Listen to me. From today, don't walk alone in this house at night. Don't eat anything that didn't pass through the kitchen, and if Dorcas asks you to meet her privately, come to me first." Rebecca nodded quickly. "Yes, Ma." Madame Nana squeezed her hand. "I will not let anyone silence you again." Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, Ma." Madame Nana smiled softly. "God has a strange way of lifting people. Sometimes he lifts you into storms before he lifts you into peace." That afternoon, Raphael sat alone in his study, staring at old photographs. One showed him as a boy, smiling wide, his arm around Madame Nana. Another showed him on his wedding day with Dorcas, both of them glowing. He rubbed his forehead. How did things become this twisted? His phone buzzed. A message from Inspector Balogun. "We've started checking the hospital records. There are gaps. Someone accessed restricted files using a temporary staff. Pass. I'll update you." Raphael's chest tightened. He leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. Dorcas walked in without knocking. "Raphael," she said softly. He opened his eyes. "What is it?" Dorcas walked closer and sat on the arm of his chair. "I know you're upset with me." "That's an understatement," Raphael said quietly. Dorcas sighed. "I was wrong. I admit it. But you have to understand. I felt replaced." Raphael looked at her. "By a girl who sleeps in a small room and cries when people shout at her." Dorcas's eyes filled with tears. "It's not about her. It's about you." Raphael frowned. "What does that mean?" Dorcas touched his hand. "You changed. The moment Mama woke up, everything became about Rebecca. You barely look at me." Raphael pulled his hand back gently. "Dorcas, my mother almost died." "And I stood by you," Dorcas snapped, then quickly softened her voice. "I mean, I was scared too." Raphael stood up. "Fear doesn't excuse cruelty." Dorcas looked away. "So what do you want me to do?" Raphael hesitated. "I want honesty and peace." Dorcas nodded slowly. "Then I will try." She leaned in and kissed his cheek lightly. Raphael didn't move. As Dorcas walked out, Raphael felt something heavy settle in his chest. He wanted to believe her, but belief was becoming harder. Across town, in a small cafe far from the mansion, Dorcas sat across from a woman with sharp eyes and a cheap wig pulled low. The woman stirred her drink slowly. "You said it was urgent." Dorcas leaned forward. "I need information. About Rebecca Adeyemi." The woman raised an eyebrow. "A maid?" Dorcas smiled thinly. "A girl pretending to be family." The woman shrugged. "What kind of information?" Dorcas lowered her voice. "Her past, her grandmother, anything that can make people doubt her." The woman chuckled. "Everyone has something." Dorcas slid an envelope across the table. "Find it." The woman opened the envelope slightly, saw the cash, and nodded. "Consider it done." Dorcas leaned back, satisfied. As she stood to leave, she whispered, "I don't need lies. I need truth that looks ugly." That evening, something unexpected happened. Madame Nana asked Rebecca to sit with her in the living room while the rest of the family gathered. Raphael sat on one couch. Dorcas on another. Madam Nana cleared her throat. Madam Nana said. Rebecca's mouth dropped open. Ma? Madam Nana smiled. You stopped your education too early. You are sharp. You deserve more. Rebecca's heart leapt. Ma, I don't even know how to thank you. Dorcas's smile froze. Raphael nodded slowly. That's a good idea, Mama. Madam Nana continued, and she will move into the guest room. That small back room is not for someone I call daughter. Dorcas's fingers dug into the couch. Rebecca felt like she was floating and sinking at the same time, joy mixed with fear. She glanced at Dorcas. Dorcas smiled at her, that same thin smile. Rebecca's joy dimmed slightly. By the next day, whispers began. Staff whispered. Drivers whispered. A cook whispered to another cook, Did you hear? Madam Dorcas says the girl is not clean. Rebecca heard it while passing the corridor. Her steps slowed. She pretended not to notice, but the words clung to her like dust. Later, one of the younger maids pulled her aside. Auntie Rebecca, please be careful. Madam Dorcas is telling people you brought village medicine to poison Mama. Rebecca's stomach dropped. What? The maid nodded nervously. She said you used juju. Rebecca's hands shook. That's not true. I know, the maid said quickly, but people are talking. Rebecca walked away, her heart pounding. She remembered Dorcas's words the night of the necklace. Who do you think they'll believe? That evening, Inspector Balogun arrived at the mansion quietly. No sirens, no uniforms, just a man in plain clothes with calm eyes. Raphael welcomed him into the study. Madam Nana insisted on being present. Dorcas sat stiffly, her face polite but cold. Balogun spoke gently. Madam Nana, I'm glad to see you stronger. Madam Nana nodded. Thank you, Inspector. Balogun turned to Raphael. We confirmed something. Someone accessed your mother's medical file using a temporary hospital staff badge. Dorcas's eyes flickered. Raphael leaned forward. Who? Balogun hesitated. The badge was registered to a visiting volunteer. Name, Dorcas Okorie. The room went silent. Raphael's head snapped toward his wife. Dorcas! Dorcas stood abruptly. This is nonsense. Balogun raised his hand calmly. Madam, please. The badge was signed out in your name. Dorcas's voice trembled. I volunteered at the hospital weeks ago. Anyone could have used that badge. Madam Nana stared at Dorcas, disappointment heavy in her eyes. Dorcas, Madam Nana said quietly, how many times must you choose destruction over peace? Dorcas burst into tears. You all want to blame me. Because I'm strong, because I speak. Raphael's voice cracked. Dorcas, did you do this? Dorcas shook her head violently. No, I swear. Balogun cleared his throat. We're still investigating, but I advise everyone to be careful. As Balogun stood to leave, he glanced briefly at Rebecca, who stood near the door. His eyes softened. Rebecca felt seen. That night, Dorcas's phone buzzed, a message from the woman at the cafe. I found something. Call me. Dorcas's heart raced. She stepped into the bathroom and locked the door. What did you find? She whispered into the phone. The woman's voice came through. You're Rebecca's grandmother. She wasn't just a herbalist. Dorcas smiled slowly. Go on. She was once arrested, the woman said, for practicing illegal traditional medicine. Someone died under her care. Dorcas's smile widened. Send me everything, she said softly. As she ended the call, Dorcas looked at her reflection in the mirror. Her eyes were bright, dangerously bright. Rebecca lay in her new guest room, staring at the ceiling. The bed was soft, too soft. She missed the hard mattress in her old room. It didn't feel like home yet. Her chest felt tight. She turned to her side and whispered a prayer. God, please don't let this goodness turn into shame. Outside her door, footsteps paused, then moved on. Rebecca's heart raced. She didn't know why, but she felt it. Something bad was coming. The next morning, Dorcas stood in the living room holding a thick brown envelope. She looked at Raphael, at Madam Nana, at Rebecca, and said calmly, I have evidence that Rebecca's grandmother was a criminal, and that this girl may have learned more than just herbs. Rebecca's world tilted, and Dorcas smiled, ready to strike again. The brown envelope felt heavy, not because of its size, because of what Dorcas wanted it to become. She held it with 2 fingers like it was already dirty, already dangerous. The living room was quiet, too quiet. Even the air conditioning sounded loud. Raphael stood near the center rug, his jaw tight. Madame Nana sat slowly, her cane resting beside her chair. Rebecca stood near the staircase, her heart hammering like it wanted to jump out and run away before the words landed. Dorcas broke the silence. "I didn't want to do this," she said calmly, almost gently. "But this house deserves the truth." Rebecca felt the room spin slightly. Madame Nana raised her chin. "Speak." Dorcas opened the envelope and pulled out several printed pages. She didn't rush. She wanted the moment to stretch. "These are records," Dorcas said. "Police records." Raphael frowned. "Records of what?" Dorcas turned slowly toward Rebecca. "Of her grandmother." Rebecca's throat went dry. Dorcas continued. "The woman who taught her these strange herbs. The same woman she claims healed Mama." Madame Nana's fingers tightened around her cane. Dorcas read from the papers. Rebecca Adeyemi's grandmother, Adeola Adeyemi, was arrested 15 years ago for practicing illegal traditional medicine. Rebecca shook her head. "That's not the full story." Dorcas ignored her. "One of her patients died." The words fell like stones. Raphael sucked in a sharp breath. Madame Nana closed her eyes. Rebecca felt like someone had poured cold water over her head. "Ma, please." Dorcas smiled faintly. "Let me finish." She flipped another page. The case was dismissed due to lack of evidence, but the arrest happened. Which means, she looked up, this family welcomed someone raised by a criminal. Rebecca stepped forward, trembling. "My grandmother was not a criminal. She helped people, poor people, people hospitals turned away." Dorcas snapped, "And someone died." Rebecca's voice broke. "Someone also died under doctor's care. Does that make all doctors killers?" The room froze. Raphael looked between them. Madame Nana opened her eyes slowly. "Dorcas, why now?" Dorcas straightened. "Because I won't let sentiment blind us. Because this girl's background is not clean. Because her so-called miracle may have put us in danger." Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. "I saved her." Dorcas's voice sharpened. "Or maybe you delayed proper treatment." Raphael's voice rose. "Dorcas, enough." Dorcas turned on him. "You're defending her again." Madame Nana lifted her hand. Silence. Everyone stopped. Madame Nana looked at Rebecca. "My child, tell me everything. From the beginning." Slowly. Rebecca wiped her face with trembling fingers. She took a breath that shook her whole body. "My grandmother was a herbalist," she said, "but not the kind people fear. She learned from her mother, and her mother before her. People came to her because hospitals were far, or too expensive, or closed." Dorcas scoffed. "That doesn't change the arrest." Rebecca nodded. "Yes. Someone died. A man who came too late. He was already dying. His family wanted a miracle. When he passed, they blamed my grandmother." Rebecca's voice cracked. She cried for days. Madame Nana's face softened. Rebecca continued, "The police arrested her because they had to. But the court cleared her. Because there was no poison. No wrongdoing. Just grief." Dorcas shook her head. "Stories." Rebecca looked straight at her. "Truth." Raphael stepped closer to Rebecca. "Dorcas, you said you didn't want lies. But you brought half-truths." Dorcas laughed bitterly. "Half-truths? I brought facts." Madame Nana leaned forward. "Facts without mercy are weapons." Dorcas clenched her fists. "So what? We just ignore this. We let her sit at our table, learn our ways, carry herbs around." Rebecca whispered. "I don't carry herbs around. I only acted because Mama was dying." Madame Nana nodded. "And she lived." Dorcas's voice dropped low. "Or maybe she survived in spite of it." Raphael snapped. "Dorcas, stop." Dorcas turned to him, eyes blazing. "If you choose her over me, just say it." Raphael froze. That was the real question. The room waited. Raphael ran a hand through his hair. His voice came out tired. This is not about choosing sides, this is about justice, Dorcas scoffed. Justice or guilt? Madame Nana sighed deeply. Dorcas, you are digging holes under your own feet. Dorcas looked at her sharply. You think I don't see it? You think I don't know this girl has taken my place in this house? Rebecca whispered. I never wanted your place. Dorcas snapped back. You took it anyway. Madame Nana struck her cane lightly on the floor. The sound echoed. Enough, she said. Everyone went silent. Madame Nana's voice was calm, but it carried weight. Dorcas, you will not destroy this house with fear and jealousy. Not while I breathe. Dorcas's lips trembled. So you believe her? Madame Nana looked at Rebecca. I believe what my eyes saw. I believe the breath in my lungs. Dorcas's shoulders dropped slightly, but her eyes stayed sharp. Raphael's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then frowned. Inspector Balagun, he said quietly. He answered the call. Yes. Now? He listened. His face changed. Are you sure? Raphael asked. Silence. Then Raphael said softly, Okay, send it. He ended the call and looked up. Everyone stared at him. What is it? Madame Nana asked. Raphael swallowed. Inspector Balogun found something. Dorcas's heart skipped. Raphael continued, the person who swapped Mama's medical samples wasn't Rebecca. Dorcas stiffened. Raphael turned slowly toward his wife. It was someone who had access to both the hospital and this house. Dorcas laughed nervously. You already said my name was on the badge. Anyone could use it. Raphael nodded. Yes, anyone. He raised his phone. Including someone who recently contacted a private investigator to dig up Rebecca's past. Dorcas's smile vanished. Rebecca felt dizzy. Madame Nana's eyes widened. What? Raphael continued, voice heavy. The investigator admitted Dorcas hired her. Dorcas stepped back. That's a lie. Raphael shook his head. She sent messages. Voice notes, payments. He looked broken. Dorcas. Why? Dorcas's lips parted. No sound came out. Raphael's voice dropped. Why did you hate her this much? Dorcas suddenly laughed. Not softly, not sadly. She laughed loud and sharp, like something inside her finally snapped. Because she made me small, Dorcas said, because everyone looked at her like a miracle and looked at me like noise. Rebecca whispered, I never asked for that. Dorcas turned on her. You existed. That was enough. Madame Nana covered her mouth. Raphael looked like he had been punched. Dorcas wiped her eyes. You want the truth? I didn't poison Mama. But when the doctors said they didn't know what was wrong, I didn't stop it either. Rebecca gasped. Raphael staggered back. Dorcas. Dorcas continued, tears falling freely now. I was tired of fighting for attention. I was tired of being second. Madame Nana's voice shook. You would have let me die? Dorcas looked at her, eyes red. I didn't think you would. Silence crashed down. Rebecca felt sick. Raphael whispered, You played. With my mother's life. Dorcas collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. I was wrong, she cried. I know. Madame Nana closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were filled with sorrow, not anger. Dorcas, she said softly, you need help. Raphael nodded slowly. This house needs peace, not fear. Dorcas looked up desperately. Raphael, please. Raphael turned away. Later that evening, the house felt hollow. Dorcas had been asked to leave the mansion temporarily, to stay with her sister while things were sorted out. No shouting, no police, just a quiet removal. Rebecca sat alone in the guest room, staring at the floor. Madame Nana knocked softly and entered. She sat beside Rebecca and held her hands. You are not cursed, Madame Nana said gently. You come from strength. Rebecca's tears fell. I didn't want to break anything. Madame Nana smiled sadly. Sometimes truth breaks lies. That noise you hear, that's healing. Rebecca nodded. Downstairs, Raphael stood by the window, staring at the gate where Dorcas's car had just driven out. His heart felt torn. Madame Nana joined him. You did the right thing. Raphael whispered, It doesn't feel like it. Madame Nana sighed. Right things often hurt. That night, Rebecca slept deeply for the first time in days. But far away, in a different part of Lagos, Dorcas sat in a dark room, her phone glowing in her hand. She wiped her tears. Then she opened a message. "I still have more information. Are you sure you want to stop now?" Dorcas stared at the screen, her face hardened. She typed back slowly, "No, I'm not done." She looked up at the ceiling. "If I'm going down," she whispered, "I won't go alone." Back at the mansion, as Rebecca slept, a knock sounded at the gate. The security guard answered. A man handed him a sealed envelope. "For Rebecca Adeyemi," the man said. Inside the envelope was a single photograph and one sentence written in red ink. "Your past is closer than you think." Rebecca's peace lasted only one night. Rebecca woke up with a strange heaviness in her chest. Not fear exactly, more like a warning. The kind your body gives you before your mind understands what's wrong. She sat up slowly in the guest room, sunlight pushing through the curtains. For a moment, everything looked peaceful. The bed was neat. Somewhere downstairs, a kettle whistled. Then she remembered. The envelope. Her heart skipped. Rebecca swung her legs off the bed and opened the drawer where she had hidden it the night before. Her fingers trembled as she pulled it out. The photograph stared back at her. It was old, slightly faded, taken with a cheap camera. It showed a woman standing in front of a small mud house, one hand resting on a wooden walking stick. Her head was wrapped in a faded scarf. Her eyes, sharp even in the photo, looked straight into the lens. Rebecca's throat tightened. "My grandmother," she whispered. Beside her stood a younger woman, slim, nervous, familiar. Rebecca sucked in a breath. "That's my mother." She had only seen her mother in one picture before. This one was different. This one felt alive. Her hands shook as she turned the photo over. Written in red ink, uneven like someone was angry while writing, "Ask who really caused the death." Rebecca's stomach twisted. A knock came at the door. She nearly screamed. "Rebecca?" Madame Nana's voice called gently. Rebecca hid the photo under the pillow and stood quickly. "Yes, Ma." Madame Nana entered slowly, leaning on her cane. She looked better than before, stronger, but her eyes were sharp. "You look like you've seen a ghost," Madame Nana said. Rebecca forced a smile. "Just thinking." Madame Nana studied her. "Thinking can be dangerous when you do it alone." Rebecca hesitated. Then she took a breath and reached for the photo. "Ma," she said softly, handing it over, "this came for me last night." Madame Nana adjusted her glasses and looked at it. Her brows slowly drew together. "This is your grandmother," Madame Nana said. "Yes." "And your mother?" "Yes, Ma." Madame Nana turned the photo over and read the words. Her mouth tightened. "This handwriting is angry," she said quietly. "And calculated." Rebecca whispered, "Someone wants to pull my past into this house." Madame Nana handed the photo back. "The past always comes when you finally feel safe." Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. "What if there's something I don't know? Something ugly?" Madame Nana placed her hand over Rebecca's. "Ugly truths do not erase good deeds." Rebecca nodded, but fear still sat heavy in her chest. Raphael was already awake. He sat at the dining table, untouched breakfast in front of him, scrolling through his phone. News articles, business, updates, nothing held his attention. His mind kept going back to Dorcas. To the words she had said, "I didn't stop it either." That sentence echoed louder than any scream. Inspector Balogun had called earlier. Dorcas is cooperating halfway. She's angry, emotional, but she's not done talking. Raphael knew what that meant. People who felt cornered didn't stay quiet. They dragged others down with them. He looked up when Rebecca entered the dining room. She looked smaller than usual and tired. "Good morning," he said gently. "Good morning, sir," Rebecca replied. He frowned. "You don't need to call me sir anymore." Rebecca managed a weak smile. "Old habits." Raphael hesitated. "Is everything okay?" Rebecca almost said yes. Almost. Then she shook her head. "Someone sent me something." Raphael's posture stiffened. "What kind of something?" She pulled out the photograph and slid it across the table. Raphael picked it up and studied it. Carefully. He turned it over. His jaw tightened. "This is a threat," he said. Rebecca nodded. "I think Dorcas is behind it." Raphael sighed deeply. She may not have sent it herself, but she definitely opened the door. Rebecca whispered, "What if my grandmother really did something wrong?" Raphael looked at her firmly. "Rebecca, listen to me. Every family has shadows. What matters is what you choose to do with the light." Rebecca swallowed. Raphael stood. "We'll find the truth, together." For the first time since everything started, Rebecca felt like she wasn't standing alone on shaking ground. Across Lagos, Dorcas sat in her sister's living room, legs crossed tightly, phone pressed to her ear. Her eyes were dry now, focused. "You said you found more," Dorcas said. The woman on the other end chuckled. "I did. You're Rebecca's family story. It's messy." Dorcas leaned forward. "Tell me." "The man who died under her grandmother's care," the woman said, lowering her voice, "wasn't just a random patient." Dorcas's heart quickened. Who was he? He was connected, politically, powerful family. They buried the case quietly, paid people off. But some records still exist. Dorcas smiled slowly. "Good. But there's a problem," the woman added. "If this comes out, it won't just stain Rebecca. It will raise questions about hospitals ignoring poor people." Dorcas shrugged. "Let it burn." The woman hesitated. "You're sure?" Dorcas's voice hardened. "I lost my home. My marriage is hanging by a thread. I have nothing left to protect." She ended the call and stared at the wall. Then she whispered, "Let's see how strong your truth really is." That afternoon, the mansion gate opened for an unexpected guest. An elderly man stepped out of a taxi, leaning heavily on a stick. His clothes were simple. His face was lined with years. The guard frowned. "Who are you here to see?" The man lifted his head slowly. "Rebecca Adeyemi." Rebecca, who was walking across the compound with Madame Nana, froze when she heard her name spoken in that voice. Her heart jumped. She knew that voice. "Uncle Tunde," she whispered. The old man's eyes lit up when he saw her. "Rebecca." "My child." Rebecca rushed forward and held him. Madame Nana watched closely. Raphael stepped closer. "Who is this?" Rebecca wiped her tears. "He's from my grandmother's village." Madame Nana nodded slowly. "Then bring him inside." They sat in the living room. Uncle Tunde cleared his throat and began to speak. "I heard your grandmother is gone," Madame Nana said gently. The man nodded sadly. "Yes, she died with pain in her heart." Rebecca's eyes filled. Uncle Tunde continued, "The man who died, the one people blamed her for, he was already dying." Rebecca looked up sharply. Uncle Tunde nodded. "He was poisoned, slowly, by people who wanted his land." The room went still. Raphael leaned forward. "Poisoned?" "Yes," Uncle Tunde said. "Your grandmother tried to save him. The herbs slowed the poison, but it was too late. When he died, the powerful family blamed her. Not because she was guilty, because she was poor." Rebecca covered her mouth. Madame Nana whispered, "God." Uncle Tunde sighed. "Your grandmother refused money to lie, so they arrested her instead. She was released, but the shame followed her until death." Rebecca's tears fell freely now. "She cried every night," Uncle Tunde added softly, "not because of prison, but because the truth had no voice." Raphael clenched his fists. "This changes everything." Madame Nana straightened. "Then the threat Rebecca received is not about justice, it's about silencing the past." Rebecca whispered, "They're afraid the truth will come out." Madame Nana nodded. "And when truth scares people, they attack messengers." That evening, Inspector Balogun arrived again. He listened quietly as Uncle Tunde spoke. When the old man finished, Balogun exhaled slowly. "This matches something we found," he said. "The man who died. His family recently hired a private investigator." Rebecca's breath caught. "Why now?" Balogun looked at Raphael. "Because Dorcas stirred something." Raphael closed his eyes briefly. Balogun continued, "If this goes public, it could shake more than this house." Madame Nana spoke calmly. "Then let it shake." Balogun nodded. "But understand this. Once truth steps out, it doesn't choose who it breaks. Rebecca whispered, "I don't want anyone else hurt." Madame Nana took her hand. Truth doesn't hurt the innocent. Lies do. That night, Dorcas sent an anonymous email to a journalist. Subject line, "Billionaire's mother saved by dangerous herbal practice." She attached the old police record, the photograph, and a short message. "The truth has been hidden for years. Now it lives in your city." Dorcas leaned back, breathing hard. "Now," she whispered, "let's see who they believe." The next morning, Raphael's phone exploded with notifications, calls, messages, emails. Rebecca walked into the living room just as Raphael read a headline aloud. Questions raised over herbal treatment used on Billionaire's mother. Rebecca felt the room tilt. Madame Nana stood slowly. "So it begins." Raphael turned to Rebecca. "Are you ready for this?" Rebecca swallowed. She remembered her grandmother's tired eyes, her mother's nervous smile in the photograph, the way Madame Nana almost died and lived. She nodded. "Yes," she said quietly, "I'm ready." But deep inside, she knew. The truth was about to face its loudest test yet. As reporters gathered outside the mansion gates and the internet tore Rebecca's story into pieces, Inspector Balogun received a call that made his face harden. "The man who poisoned the landowner is alive," he said slowly, "and he's on his way to Lagos." The past wasn't done speaking. The gates of the mansion did not close that morning. They couldn't. Cars lined the street, cameras flashed, voices shouted questions that didn't wait for answers. Is it true? Was the billionaire's mother saved with illegal herbs? Is the maid a fraud? Rebecca stood by the window, watching Lagos wake up to her life. Her hands were cold, her stomach hurt. She felt like she was standing naked in front of the world, with nowhere to hide. Behind her, Madame Nana adjusted her shawl and stood tall, leaning lightly on her cane. "Do not bow your head," Madame Nana said calmly. "This storm is not your shame." Rebecca nodded, but her throat felt tight. Raphael entered the room, his phone pressed to his ear. He ended the call and exhaled sharply. "They're not leaving," he said. "Every media house wants a statement." Rebecca whispered, "I didn't ask for any of this." Madame Nana turned to her. "No one ever asks for truth. Truth chooses." Inspector Balogun arrived just as the noise outside grew louder. He closed the door firmly behind him. "The man is here," he said. Raphael stiffened. "Here where?" "In Lagos. He checked into a hotel on the mainland late last night." Rebecca's heart jumped. "The man who poisoned the landowner?" Balogun nodded. "Yes. His name is Sadiq Bello. He disappeared after the land issue years ago. Changed names. Changed businesses." Madame Nana's eyes sharpened. "Why would he surface now?" Balogun answered, "Because the past is being dragged into the light. And men like him hate light." Rebecca sat slowly, her legs felt weak. "So my grandmother was telling the truth," she whispered. Balogun looked at her. She was. Tears slid down Rebecca's cheeks, not loud, not dramatic. Just quiet relief mixed with old grief. "She died carrying shame that wasn't hers," Rebecca said. Madame Nana placed a hand on her shoulder. "Not anymore." Across the city, Dorcas sat alone in her sister's apartment, watching the news. Rebecca's face filled the screen. Maid at center of controversy. Dorcas's jaw tightened. She had expected fear. She had expected collapse. But Rebecca stood beside Madame Nana, quiet but steady. Dorcas clenched her fists. "This wasn't how it was supposed to go," she whispered. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "You open doors you cannot close," a man's voice said. Dorcas's breath caught. "Who is this?" "Sadiq Bello," the voice replied calmly, "and you've made my past dangerous again." Dorcas swallowed. "I didn't name you." "But you stirred the water," he said, "and now the mud is rising." Dorcas's voice shook. "What do you want?" A pause. "Silence," he said, "from you and from that girl." The call ended. Dorcas stared at the phone. For the first time, real fear touched her heart. Back at the mansion, reporters continued to shout from outside the gate. Raphael rubbed his face. "We can issue a statement through lawyers. Keep everything controlled." Madame Nana shook her head slowly. No. Raphael looked at her. Mama? Madame Nana's voice was firm. I will speak, and Rebecca will stand beside me. Rebecca's eyes widened. Ma? Madame Nana smiled gently. When truth is questioned, the one who benefited must speak. Raphael hesitated. It could get ugly. Madame Nana nodded. It already is. She turned to Rebecca. Are you strong enough? Rebecca felt fear, yes, but she also felt something else. Resolve. She thought of her grandmother's tired eyes, of her mother in that photograph, of the moment Madame Nana gasped for breath and lived. She nodded. Yes, Ma. They stepped outside together. Madame Nana first, then Rebecca. The noise exploded. Questions flew like stones. Cameras flashed. Madame Nana raised her hand, slowly. The noise faded. I am Madame Nana Okori, she said, and I am alive today because a young woman trusted knowledge passed down to her with love. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Madame Nana continued, Doctors tried. They cared. But they did not know what was wrong with me. Rebecca acted when fear would have kept others silent. A reporter shouted, Wasn't it dangerous? Madame Nana turned toward him. What is more dangerous, doing nothing while someone dies, or acting with wisdom when time is running out? Silence followed. She gestured to Rebecca. This girl did not force anything into my body. She saved me. Rebecca's hands trembled, but she stood still. Madame Nana added, and about her grandmother. She was not a criminal. She was poor, and in this country poverty is often treated like guilt. The words hit hard. Raphael stepped forward. Any investigation into my mother's illness is ongoing, but we will not allow lies to bury truth again. Rebecca finally spoke. Her voice was soft, but it carried. My grandmother taught me to help when I can, she said. She taught me that healing is not always loud. Sometimes it is just one drop of courage. The cameras kept rolling, but something had shifted. The crowd wasn't shouting anymore. They were listening. That evening, Inspector Balogun returned, this time with news. They have him, he said quietly. Rebecca's heart jumped. Who? Sadiq Bello, Balogun replied. He tried to flee after threatening Dorcas. We traced him. Raphael exhaled slowly. Balogun continued. He confessed. On record, he poisoned the landowner years ago to force a land sale. When your grandmother slowed the poison, he panicked. He allowed her to take the blame. Rebecca closed her eyes. Madame Nana whispered, Justice may be slow, but it walks. Balogun nodded. The confession clears your grandmother's name. Tears streamed down Rebecca's face. For the first time, she cried freely. Dorcas watched the breaking news. Man confesses in decades-old poison case. Her body shook. Her phone buzzed again, this time from Raphael. She answered slowly. It's over, Raphael said quietly. The truth is out. Dorcas closed her eyes. I never meant for it to go this far. Raphael replied, Intent doesn't erase damage. Dorcas whispered, What happens now? A pause. You need help, Raphael said, and space. Dorcas nodded, though he couldn't see it. I understand. When the call ended, Dorcas stared at the wall. For the first time, there was no plan, only regret. Weeks later, the mansion felt different, calmer, lighter. Rebecca sat at the dining table with books spread before her, school registration forms. Madame Nana watched her proudly. You will go far, Madame Nana said. Rebecca smiled, because you believed in me. Madame Nana shook her head, because you believed in yourself when no one laughed kindly. Raphael entered, holding a small box. Rebecca, he said. She looked up. He handed her the box. Inside was a simple necklace. Silver, not gold. I'm not replacing anything, Raphael said. Just marking a beginning. Rebecca's eyes filled. Thank you. Madame Nana smiled. From maid to daughter, from laughter to legacy. This story teaches that truth does not need power to survive, it needs courage. Rebecca was never the strongest person in the room. She was the quietest. But she carried something rare, integrity without bitterness. Even when accused, even when framed, she chose truth over revenge. Madame Nana represents wisdom that grows deeper with pain. She understood that survival is not just breathing. It is protecting the innocent when you still have strength. Raphael learned that leadership begins at home. Love is not choosing comfort. It is choosing what is right, even when it costs you peace. Dorcas is a mirror many people fear to look into. Her cruelty did not come from evil, it came from fear of becoming invisible. But fear, when left untreated, turns into destruction. And the grandmother? She represents every voice history tried to bury. In the end, kindness outlived lies. Truth outlasted power. And the maid everyone laughed at became the reason a family and a legacy was saved. Sometimes the smallest hands carry the biggest healing. What is your view about this story? Where are you watching from? If you enjoyed this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.